promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Praia. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Ivorian President Ouattara to meet with his predecessor Gbagbo, which will be the first since 2022. Burkina Faso's government expresses optimism over creation of Atomic Energy Agency.
This achievement, in addition to ensuring Burkina Faso's energy independence, should also enable the industrialization of the country and provide access to electricity throughout the national territories.
Wadr releases a study on the implications of the withdrawal of 3 Sahelian states from ECOWAS, and members of parliament in Sierra Leone summon the Ministry of Fisheries over revenue loss from license fees. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us, and a warm welcome to our listeners in Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. We begin in Côte d'Ivoire, where reports have emerged about a planned historic meeting of 2 political icons in the country. This meeting is between President Alassane Ouattara and his predecessor, Laurent Gbagbo, an opposition to the current regime. According to a colleague journalist at Jeune Afrique, the meeting, which will be the first between the 2 personalities since 2022, could happen anytime soon. More details from Albin Ade in Abidjan and voiced by Imo Edet.
The date of this next meeting between Alassane Ouattara and Laurent Gbagbo is not yet known, but for the time being, the emissaries of the 2 presidents are already finalizing the details of this new meeting. According to Jeune Afrique, a former Ivorian president, Laurent Gbagbo, wants to discuss several political issues with his successor, Alassane Ouattara, including the electoral process in view of the 2025 presidential elections. Recall opposition and civil society organizations in Côte d'Ivoire have been calling for reforms to the electoral system. Laurent Gbagbo also wants to renegotiate his re-registration on the electoral lease, sentenced to 20 years in prison in the Bissau robbery case and then pardoned by Alassane Ouattara. He is still not eligible to contest in the elections. Laurent Gbagbo hopes to be granted amnesty so that he can be reinstated on the electoral lease. The former Ivorian president is a candidate of the PPACI for the 2025 presidential election. The planned meeting between the 2 men is expected to also address the issue of Guillaume Soro, the former president of the Ivorian parliament, who is now an opponent in exile but wishes to be pardoned as Laurent Gbagbo so he can return to Côte d'Ivoire in the name of national reconciliation. The discussions will also focus on the release of so-called political prisoners, including several close associates of Laurent Gbagbo and Guillaume Soro.
A report by WADR's Albin Ade in Abidjan and voiced in our studios by Imo Edet. And now to the Sahel, the Burkinabe government has expressed optimism over the construction of a nuclear power plant with the support of Russia. The new Burkinabe Agency for Atomic Energy is expected to allow access to electricity throughout the country and to boost industrialization. A delegation from the Russian National Atomic Energy Company recently visited Burkina Faso. Nader Tete has the rest of the details in this report by our Ouagadougou correspondent Martin Kaba.
Burkina Faso has just taken a new step towards the construction of a nuclear power plant. This is on the back of the creation of the Burkinabe Agency for Atomic Energy. This new structure will be responsible for contributing to the development, monitoring, and evaluation of policies and strategies in the nuclear field. Here is a government spokesperson, Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo, providing details on this.
Il vous souviendra qu'au sommet Russie-Afrique tenu les 27...
You remember that at the Russia-Africa Summit held on June 27 and 28, 2023 in St. Petersburg, the head of state expressed Burkina Faso's desire to free itself from repeated energy crises, notably through the construction of a nuclear power plant. He clearly indicated that this achievement, in addition to ensuring Burkina Faso's energy independence, should also enable the industrialization of the country and provide access to electricity throughout the national territories.
Burkina Faso will benefit from Russia's support in the implementation of this project. A delegation from the Russian National Atomic Energy Company, Rosatom, recently visited the country to prepare towards this groundbreaking decision by the Burkinabe government.
Nadir Titi with that report filed in by WADR's Ouagadougou correspondent Martin Kaba. Meanwhile, the Burkinabe Transitional President Captain Ibrahim Traoré has approved a project for the creation of a commission to coordinate the activities of the Alliance of Sahel State AES. Following the announcement at the Council of Ministers on Wednesday, activities of the AES will now be covered by a special body in Burkina Faso, which shall be known as the National Commission of the Confederation of Alliance of Sahel State, CNAES. According to the decree establishing the commission, it will be under the direct authority of President Traoré. The National Commission of the Confederation will, among other functions, assist Captain Traoré in the process of structuring and operation of the AES Confederation, prepare, plan and monitor the implementation of the decisions of the College of Heads of State as well as the Council of Ministers. Recall Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger recently signed an AES convention after expressing their commitment to consolidating their defense and security forces for the development of the Sahel region. And in the face of the imminent withdrawal of the Sahelan states of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger from the ECOWAS come January 2025, the West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, WADEMOS, commissioned a study to look at implications of the notified withdrawal on the populations and the sub-region at large. To highlight further these changes, the network of about 40 civil society groups from across the sub-region held an event in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, to engage with the diaspora community. The session was to draw their attention to these implications. While attending, WADR's Usman Umar caught up with Emmanuel Yeboah, a research analyst with WADEMOS, who shared insights on some of these dangers.
We are talking about a population of 72 million, representing just about 17% of the region's population. I'm referring to the population of the AES. Again, the AES is plagued with a number of crises. You have rising insecurity crisis. You have issues of organized crime and armed groups. You have climate vulnerabilities. As we speak, the three countries combined has about 3.1 million individuals that have been displaced, and more than 60% of this number is from Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso currently needs about $877 million to deal with its humanitarian crisis. And so the region already has challenges as a country, right? And now we are seeing a withdrawal from the ECOWAS. Already we must understand that these countries are beneficiaries of a number of things. Just to go into details when it comes to the implications, the citizens from these countries may no longer be able to reside or set businesses under the ECOWAS protocol on free movement of trade. They may be subject to diverse national laws, and citizens from these three countries will cease to have, the ECOWAS passports, the ECOWAS biometric identity cards, a number of things.
Stay with us for more with Emmanuel Yeboah, a research analyst with WADEMOS, in the second half of the news.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we're live on WADR.org and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Elsewhere, the recently appointed head of the Liberian Office of War and Economic Crimes Court has been dismissed. Councillor Jonathan Masakwa's dismissal by President Joseph Boakai followed mounting pressure from civil society actors and rights activists over his credibility to chair such an institution. Thus, Boakai has instructed that a committee of eminent organizations be instituted to carry out the vetting and recruitment process for the Economic and War Crimes Court. This body, created by Joseph Boakai, seeks to investigate and prosecute financiers of the civil wars in Liberia that resulted in the death of hundreds of thousands of people. From Monrovia, Daniton Popper reports.
In May this year, President Joseph Boakai signed the Executive Order No. 131, establishing the Office of the War and Economic Crimes Court, empowering the office to investigate, design and prescribe the methodology, mechanism and processes for the establishment of a special war crimes court, as well as a national anti-corruption court for Liberia. He also appointed Liberian lawyer Jonathan Masakwe as head of the office. However, since his appointment, the president has come under immense pressure to remove Masakwe, who is said to be on record as serving as a lawyer for individuals accused of committing atrocities in Liberia. Meanwhile, at a news conference Thursday evening, Information Minister Jerry Lemepia said the president has accepted the criticisms in good faith and has decided to put together a search committee to recruit eminent individuals to head the Office of War Crimes.
A search and vetting committee that will include the Ministry of Justice as chair, a representative from the National Civil Society Council of Liberia, a national NGO that works on transitional justice, a representative from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, a representative from the United Nations, the Independent National Commission on Human Rights, the Liberian National Bar Association, the Interreligious Council of Liberia, and a representative from the African Union's mission to Liberia.
The minister said the committee will have to accelerate the process to ensure that the names of 3 individuals with integrity are submitted to the president within 21 days. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
Crossing over to Sierra Leone, members of parliament from the Public Accounts Committee PAC have accused the Ministry of Fisheries of negligence, leading to a significant loss of government revenue from fishing vessel license fees. The criticism came during an oversight hearing on August 14, where the officials from the ministry were summoned to address issues raised in the Auditor General's report for 2021 to 2022. Ogebirika tells us more.
The PAC, expressing dissatisfaction with the ministry's performance, announced plans to conduct an oversight visit to the Fisheries Ministry to verify the explanations provided during the hearing. The ministry faced scrutiny over the collection of fees from 17 fishing companies for the issuance of licenses. In response to questions from the committee, Hawa Eli, the permanent secretary at the Ministry of Fisheries, clarified that the ministry itself does not collect these fees. Instead, she said, the fees are paid directly to the Bank of Sierra Leone and the National Revenue Authority, after which the ministry issues licenses based on the receipts provided by these agencies. The matter remains unresolved pending the production of all necessary documents and the completion of payment by the defaulting companies. Like other West African countries, Sierra Leone has been under severe strain in recent years due to intensive commercial industrial fishing and a growing population of artisanal fishers. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, Sierra Leone's fishery sector has an estimated harvestable value of $100 million annually.
Ogebirika reporting there. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online on WADR.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Ivorian President Ouattara to meet with his predecessor, Gbagbo, which will be the first since 2022. Burkina Faso's government expresses optimism over creation of Atomic Energy Agency. Wadr releases a study on the implications of the withdrawal of 3 Sahelian states from ECOWAS. Members of Parliament in Sierra Leone summoned the Ministry of Fisheries over revenue loss from license fees. Still ahead in the news, we have the guest interview and a sports update. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for staying with us. The mortuary of Ghana's oldest medical center, the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra, is at the mercy of a constant decline in electricity supply to the facility, thereby affecting the refrigerators used in preservation of corpses. The situation has forced families to transfer the bodies of their dead relatives to private mortuaries, which they say are expensive. From Accra, Christopher Ticho reports.
The sad situation, which has persisted for the past 3 weeks, is gradually gaining public attention as more people who have the remains of their loved ones at the facility are expressing concern as the voltage of electricity supplied to the refrigerators at the mortuary has been inconsistent with increased power consumption in the area. Thus, the power distributor, the Electricity Company of Ghana, is yet to address. Though the hospital management has declined to speak on record, the fluctuations in power supply have caused issues with the compressors used to preserve the corpse. Let's call this man Kofi, as he wants to remain anonymous, sharing his frustrations and how he wants to transfer the mortal remains of his late auntie.
For barely about 2 quarters now, the refrigerators have not been serviced, and this is creating a lot of inconvenience for the hospital. I personally had a body there of an auntie, and realizing the current situation, we had to transfer the body from the place to a different mortuary. Intelligence further revealed that Nesta, the company responsible for the maintenance of the refrigerator, has not been paid for 2 quarters. So this has been the challenge, and putting the smooth running of the mortuary into a little bit of a challenge.
Information gathered indicates that the technicians responsible for the maintenance of these refrigerators have not been paid for the past 6 months. Hence, they have withdrawn their services. For WADR, Christopher Ticho, Accra.
And in news beyond West Africa, a new assessment of the evolution of the monkeypox epidemic in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, shows that more than 500 deaths have been recorded since January 2024. The DRC is the epicenter of the disease, which has been declared by the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the World Health Organization a public health emergency of international concern. The new report was released by the Congolese authorities. It must be stated that the disease is no longer confined to Africa, with 1 case detected in Europe. Tisu has more in the following report.
According to the latest epidemiological reports from the Congolese Ministry of Health presented on Thursday, since January 2024, the country has recorded 548 deaths and just over 15,600 cases. In addition to the provinces of South Kivu, North Kivu, Equateur, and North Ubangi, several others in the northeast and center of the country are the most affected. It is now the new strain of the disease, more deadly and contagious in the east of the country, which is worrying the Congolese health authorities. The DRC hopes to be able to count on the support of the World Health Organization and the African Union Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The Congolese Ministry of Health has called for the activation of all necessary mechanisms to identify and treat cases free of charge. As a reminder, this is the second time after 2022 that the WHO has triggered its highest level of alert against this viral disease. The discovery of a new viral strain of the disease in eastern DRC and its rapid spread in the country and among its neighbors is a major risk, the WHO has said. Outside of Africa, a case of monkeypox has been detected in Sweden. According to the Swedish Public Health Agency, the person contracted the disease during his stay in an African country where the disease is prevalent, without giving further details. The Swedish health authorities said the patient is being treated and does not pose a danger to the rest of the local population.
Tisu reporting.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest segment features Emmanuel Yeboah, a research analyst with West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, Wadr. Yeboah, in this chat with WADR's Usman Umar in Abuja, explains some of the implications of the decision of the 3 Saharan countries, namely Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, to quit the regional bloc ECOWAS. His comments come on the heels of the commissioning of a study by Wadr, a network of 40 CSOs across the sub-region in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, which also provided space for engagement with the diaspora community. Well, until January 2025, when the trial's withdrawal notice to ECOWAS becomes valid, our guest warns that the clock is ticking and urges for mobilization to get them to rescind their decision.
For us, the people are at the heart of everything. So what are at stake? What will be the implication for the people, first of all, in these countries of concern, should this withdrawal be allowed to stand?
Well, thank you very much. I think that's a very important question. We are talking about a population of 72 million, representing just about 17% of the region's population. I'm referring to the population of the AES. Again, the AES is plagued with a number of crises. Already, we must understand that these countries are beneficiaries of a number of things. They are beneficiaries of IMF support. They are beneficiaries of ECOWAS support for counter-terrorism. So, I mean, just to go into details when it comes to the implications, the citizens from these countries may no longer be able to reside or set businesses under the ECOWAS protocol on free movement of trade. They may be subject to diverse, national laws. We also know that the exports from these from leading economies such as Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire to Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso is about 2.8 billion as of 2021. So if you are looking at the exports from the leading economies from ECOWAS to these three countries, the total is about $2.8 billion. And I mean, if you look at the reverse, the exports from the AES to the leading economies such as Ghana, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso is just around $353 million.
All right. Definitely, this is a very, very scary statistics already. But for the sub-region itself, because there has been efforts about economic integration and all of this, what will this mean for the sub-region going forward?
Well, maybe just to move on to your next question, one other thing which we are very much concerned about has to do with infrastructural investments that have been made in these three countries. We have the food buffer stock for the region in these countries. You have irrigation systems for the region planted in these countries. I mean, if you look at the total amount of investment in these countries that would have to go out to other ECOWAS countries, we are looking at more than $500 million when it comes to, infrastructure, fiscal infrastructure that have been invested in these three countries, all right? There are other political implications as well. As we speak, ECOWAS has about 130 staff belonging to, or 30 staff who are nationals of these three countries. Once the withdrawal becomes formalized, these staff or these nationals working for ECOWAS would have to, lose their jobs, right? And so what we are discussing is a very dire situation. We are not in for a joke when January 29 comes, 2025, and officially these guys exit the bloc. And so I think that the region is at a point already we are struggling with unconstitutional changes in government. We are struggling with issues of term limits. We are struggling with, manipulation of elections. Citizens are generally dissatisfied with the outcomes of democracy. Although Afrobarometer data indicates that, of course, citizens prefer democracy to other forms of government. However, when it comes to the supply side of democracy, citizens do not really benefit from the dividends of democracy. And so the region is going to struggle. So the GDPs of these three countries combined is about 10% out of the regional GDP. But of course, once they are going out, there's going to be some repercussions on the part of ECOWAS as well. But of course, we know from the data pointed out today that the most affected will certainly be the AES. And that's the reason why we must all come together. We must all join forces to ensure that these countries, rescind their decision.
Emmanuel Yeboah, a research analyst with Wadr. Up next is a sports update with Sankule Janko.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The remains of former Confederation of African Football CAF President Issa Hayatou arrived in Cameroon, marking the beginning of a solemn tribute to a man who played a pivotal role in African and global football, according to African Soccer. A special reception and prayer service was organized at the Yaoundé International Airport, where a multiple of mourners gathered to pay their respects. Among the attendees were significant figures in the football world, including Hayatou's successor, Ahmed Ahmed, and his longtime friend, Constant Omari. Also present was Samuel Eto'o, the current president of the Cameroon Football Federation, Fecafoot, who has often expressed admiration for Hayatu's contribution to the sport's Soccer Africa reports. Hayatu, who led CAF for nearly 3 decades, is remembered for his dedication to advancing African football on the global stage. His passing marks the end of an era, but his legacy lives on in the hearts of many. The final farewell will take place today, Friday, in Garoua, his hometown, where he'll be laid to rest. The ceremony is expected to be a poignant moment, honoring a man who shaped the future of football in Africa and beyond, according to Noah Adams, a football writer. The longtime leader of African soccer, who was made interim president of FIFA during its corruption crisis in 2015, died on Thursday, August 8, 2024, in Paris, France. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
Sports was brought to you by Sankule Janko. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Krista Mukidi and Maujo Juf for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Remember, we stream live on WADR.org and visit Google Play Store today to download our mobile application, WADR Live. Do join Alpha Abubakar at the top of the hour of 1 p.m. for the news in French. Info chez vous. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.